Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm Greg,
I'm Emily.
and we're going to talk about a Hugo and Nebula award-winning short story from the year of 1990 titled Bears Discover Fire. And there's a good reason why I'm doing this right at this time. But Bears Discover Fire was published in the August 1990 issue of Asimov's Science Fiction magazine.
Ooh, I like the
And
colors.
I did read it at that time and promptly forgot about it until the next year when they gave it to Hugo and Nebula, and I thought, what the heck?
Yeah.
Why are they giving that story a Hugo and Nebula award? It won the Hugo and won the Nebula for best short story of that year. Um, Written by Terry Bisson, who just died in last January,
Mm-hmm.
and this was only his seventh published story, according to my research.
Oh wow. So he didn't
So he hadn't
hadn't
published much
published
at
a
this
lot by
time.
that point.
Nope.
Interesting.
And he right away won all these awards for it. So,
Nice.
do you want to? Is there an illustration for Bears Discover Fire? I'm thinking there is.
I was just looking at the weirdest. Let me look.
Okay. And ignoring me.
Page 144. Let me consult page 144. Yes! It's a bunch of bears holding torches
Cool.
while he's changing a
Bye,
tire.
guys. Cut.
We'll take a picture of that and
They
probably.
did that?
Lori Harder.
Ah, not familiar with her.
Yeah, I'm not either. But it's a pretty cool illustration. Actually,
Yeah.
a lot of the illustrations in here are
Yeah,
pretty
they had some
interesting.
good illustrations by
Yeah,
Asimov
yeah.
back then.
This is pretty
They
interesting.
don't really do illustrations
Some of them
inside
I'd get
anymore.
tattooed on myself. Like, I'd get that tattoo. Nothing to do with the
Right.
story we're doing, though. All right. So, yeah. This one was a
Bears
weird
Discover
one.
Fire.
Yeah, this story was a weird one because it's like a
It's an
normal
understatement.
Midwestern or kind of
Was it
feeling.
Virginia?
Yeah, it was in
Yeah.
Virginia, but it felt very Midwestern to me.
Okay.
Um, so it's in Virginia, and basically this guy and his family, or his brother and his nephew, are driving, and they get a flat tire. So he goes and changes the tire, and while they're changing the tire, their flashlight dies. But still, there's a brilliant light that comes from the forest.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they're done changing the tire and they look, these bears are holding torches with fire, like
Mm-hmm.
just hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
They discovered fire. And so eventually this becomes a news report. So it's kind of them living their lives and doing their thing. And like the bears just kind of start camping out in the median of the interstate with
Mm-hmm.
these fires and just hanging out and eating these weird hybrid berries that are chilling in that median.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as that kind of is, getting oversaturated in the news. It's basically the story of this guy with his nephew living with him and teaching him how to take care of a vehicle. And
Mm-hmm.
then also the story of this guy and his nephew and his brother dealing with the process of their mother, who's in a nursing home, coming closer and closer to the end of her life and eventually, spoiler alert, dying. The bears have very little to do with this story. It's just kind of
Yeah,
like
they're just
they're
there.
just kind of there and it's happening. So it's like this really weird phenomenon juxtaposed against these people just living their lives and dealing with stuff that people deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a weird story in that where there's really nothing super significant to get out of it. Like I appreciated the juxtaposition of life kind of just going on even though there's this weird thing happening with the bears discovering fire and building fires and camping out in the interstate middle of the interstate.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like the bears are retaliating or doing anything in particular. They just learn how to make fire and are just utilizing that skill around food source.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these people are just living their lives, doing their thing.
Yeah.
So, I didn't quite know what to glean from this story. I thought it was interesting and kind of intriguing to have
Mm-hmm.
that juxtaposition, but the story itself was not super dynamic in any way. It was very
No.
like slice of life
Mm-hmm.
and boring life at that.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I got out of it is like even when something crazy and remarkable happens, eventually it becomes old hat and life goes on kind of thing. That's kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah.
Except for, I guess, in the case of the grandmother, she still thought it was very interesting. At one point, she does actually escape her nursing home to go sit with the bears as she's dying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which, in my mind, I'm making a lot of connections that probably aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, I felt like her going to do that was to see one last great thing before she died.
Okay.
And that was the most interesting thing that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So she just went and sat by the fire with the bears with her comforter, and her son and nephew found her, and they sat with her, and she died in her son's arms
Mm-hmm.
around the bears around the fire.
Mm-hmm. And the bears just sat there making s'mores or something.
Yeah, they just sat there eating their berries and out of a hubcap and putting more wood on the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just,
Yeah, that
yeah,
I'm kind of in the same place. It's three different stories all kind of thrown together that really have little to do with one another unless you start trying to see connections
yeah,
that maybe aren't even there.
I know. I'm just trying to
You
make
have the
allegories.
one story about the guy telling his son about changing his own tire.
Nephew. His
Nephew.
nephew.
Nephew about changing his own tire and how to change your own tire and break the
Hmm.
bead and stuff. Um, and then there was this other story about these bears discover fire and they're just kind of wandering around hanging out,
Doing bear
not
stuff and then building fires at night.
not even trying to break into people's food or anything like bears do. They just are sitting around the campfire like a bunch of hobos near the train tracks.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's grandma dying.
But she's
She's
taken quite a her sweet fat time dying
Well,
in the
it can
story.
happen that way.
Yeah.
They don't always go right away. They go into a
Hmm.
home and they can linger in the home for quite a while, but
Hmm.
when they're ready to go, they go.
Yeah.
And when she was ready to go, she went and hung with the bears and she went.
Hmm. Which is a beautiful full way to go. I mean,
Yeah,
out in
it's
nature, not in a
kind of nice.
hospital.
But, first of all, the only science fictional thing here is the bears discovering fire, and that's he doesn't make any point with it.
It's like subsequent.
Hmm.
It's not
It's just there.
it just existed. What does it mean? Who
It's
knows?
like your dog fetching the ball.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Yeah. Like
Um,
I liked the story. It wasn't unpleasant to read. I just didn't
yeah.
know what if it meant anything.
Hmm.
And I can't figure out what it means. If it
No, I
means
don't.
anything.
I don't. I think it has. Like I say, it's three different stories.
Yeah.
Each one has its own little meaning,
Mm-hmm.
but only one of them really suits Isaac Asimov's science fiction magazine,
Yeah.
and that one is not really that important to the
Yeah.
story.
And it's not expounded
I felt the really big story here was grandma dying, and maybe that's
on.
just
Mm-hmm.
because I've gone through that with my mother-in-law just this past summer.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
And that's kind of
that
what I
probably was
honed
the
in
bigger
on.
part of it because of that for
Yeah.
me. But all three stories do have a point.
Yeah.
It's just not a point that has anything to do with the other two stories.
Yeah. It kind of seems like they're all just it's just things happening all at once
Yeah.
or in proximity to each other, which is why I kind of call it juxtaposition. You've
Hmm.
got this very ordinary slice of life stuff going on with a coming of age story for the nephew and learning how to quote unquote be a man or
Yeah.
take care of a car, and grandma's end of life stuff happening and the bears discovering fire
Hmm.
and becoming a sensation to the humans somehow
Hmm.
until the media basically beat that horse to death.
Which,
And
yeah,
everyone's like, yeah, it's old hat now. We know.
does happen.
The bears are in the median with the fires eating the berries.
Hmm. That part seemed a little seemed a little bit like J.G. Ballard,
Mm-hmm.
because Ballard wrote a whole novel called Concrete Island
Yeah.
about people who are trapped in the median of the interstate and can't. The traffic is going so fast they can't get off,
Mm-hmm.
and so they have to try and survive
Build a little
in the median.
society.
Yeah, they
Hmm.
build this whole society that reverts backwards to primitivism on the interstate median.
That's kind of interesting. I'd read that.
We're going to get to that.
Excellent.
Um, and so when the Bears were taking up residence in there, I thought that's got to be a nod to Ballard.
Hmm. Yeah. Except they were just chilling.
Yeah,
They weren't violent. They weren't doing anything. Just had a little
right.
campfire, just ate their berries.
Yeah, like I say, they seemed a lot like hobos,
Yeah, just living their
sitting by the
lives.
train tracks,
Yeah,
eating their beans.
doing whatever.
Um, so anyway, this won the 1990 Nebula Award for Best Short Story, the 1991 Hugo Award for Best Short Story, which of course is for stories published in 1990. Um, I can't for the life of me see why. Maybe there
Yeah.
just wasn't anything else good that
It
year.
wasn't. That's the thing, though. Like, it's not unenjoyable. Even though it's confusing, it
Hmm.
was still entertaining. Like, I've read books where it's very, like, slice of life like that. And sure, there's a weird thing that happens eventually. Like, felt like I was kind of reading Where the Red Fern Grows or something like that.
But the story just didn't hang together
No,
and
it's
didn't
just
go anywhere.
strange and odd and a little disjointed, but it's not unpleasant. I
No,
enjoyed it,
but I just don't see. I
but I
mean, I
just
wouldn't call this a top tail. I would
no,
never.
I wouldn't either.
So
Absolutely not.
I don't know why it won
Yeah,
Hugo and Nebula.
it confuses me.
Hmm.
Like what does it mean?
Yeah.
What does it
So I don't know. That's where we need you.
Yeah, you tell us what you think it
Um,
means, cause
First, I want to say the reason I got into this story.
yeah. Tell them how we found it. Or
Well,
how
I've known
you
of it
well,
for many years.
yeah, but how you it came back to you, I should say.
I got a hold of the 60th anniversary issue of New Worlds magazine, edited by Michael Moorcock.
Hmm.
And one of the old New Worlds authors, Pamela Zoline,
Hmm.
she published in the 1960s New Worlds, and she wrote a new story for this issue titled Bears Discover Singularity,
Hmm.
which is, of course, inspired by Bears Discover Fire. Now, it had been more than 30 years since I had read this story, so I had to go back and reread it. And just like the first time I read it, I finished it and went, why the hell does anybody like this?
Hmm.
Um, I can't say that I love the story. I can't say that I think it's a great story.
Hmm.
It's okay, but I don't think I would even recommend it
Yeah.
myself.
I mean, if you want to try and decipher it and help explain it to us, more power to you.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was unpleasant. Like, it was just kind of a cozy story
Hmm.
with a little bit of, like, real life tragedy in it, but
Hmm.
not in kind of a serene way.
But I got you involved because I thought there's got to be something other people are seeing that I'm just not
I
getting.
mean, I made connections to make it make sense to me, but
Yeah,
I can't speak to what the author actually intended.
right.
Maybe it is just meant to be one of those stories where people took away what they wanted to, and that's why
Hmm.
it was so popular and won awards. It's because nobody knew what it was, so they made up their own things. It became meaningful to them, and then it became a sensation because it was just taking the reading world by storm.
Hmm.
So,
It's a little bit like This Is Not a Pipe,
yeah,
where
I don't
people
know.
read all kinds of ridiculous things into it.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, Pamela Zoline wrote that story, and I wanted to read it, but I wanted to go back and reread Bears Discover Fire before I read it. I have read Pamela Zoline's story. I kind of like hers better, and I'm going to do a video on that and post it,
Hmm.
um, very close to when I put this video up.
So, yeah.
So that's how this got started, and she got stuck doing an extra story and extra video this month.
You know, it was worth a shot.
Hmm.
Like, again, I can't say I didn't enjoy it. It just felt
Hmm.
very soft,
Yeah.
easy read. Wasn't too much, but wasn't too little. It just was.
Yeah, but I kind of ended it wishing he would have just done away with the bears, done away with the tires
Or
crap
give me the history of how the
focus.
bears discovered fire. I want that
Yeah,
POV.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did they pass
Well,
on this
he
tradition?
kind of talked about that it was something about the bears coming further south
Mm-hmm.
because of
The
changes.
berries.
Yeah.
The berries were a hybrid of something similar that used to exist somewhere else, like
Yeah,
up
and
north
so they're
more,
coming further south,
looking for
and
food
they
and
needed fire for some reason, and so
hmm
they invented fire. They discovered fire.
hmm
So, he kind of gave a little bit, but not a
Yeah.
detailed
Yeah. I would have liked the bear's
evolutionary. Yeah,
perspective.
might have been interesting. Or where they go with this.
Yeah.
Because that's the really fascinating question about the idea
hmm
of bears discovering something like that, is
Yeah, if
that
they have the capacity for that.
in human history we connect that with the beginnings of all of our knowledge.
hmm
That from there we invented the wheel, we invented the spear, we invented um,
Which had
bow
dominion
and
over day
arrow,
and
we
night and
we
no longer were
invented.
caught with the
Yeah,
confines of day and night.
but
We could be up all
we
night with
invented
fire.
all of our weapons, and we
hmm
invented all of our tools, and we invented math, and we
hmm
invented astronomy,
Yeah.
and all this stuff came
It is the
after
first
we
great discovery.
discovered fire.
hmm
Um, are the Bears going to go down that same path, or will they do something better with everything than what we've done?
Interesting.
That is the story I want to read.
Culturally, what does
What
that
are
do?
the Bears doing in 2836?
Yeah. Have they taken over Earth? Did the humans die off because of
Uh-huh.
their own foolishness?
Mhm.
Will the bears learn better?
Planet of the Bears.
Just the bears. And how do they evolutionarily change because of those things?
Hmm.
Like, does it change their physiology?
Hmm.
Poses a lot of questions. Maybe that's the whole point. Is people just bearing witness to this beginnings while life goes on, and the rest of it is just posing the questions of the what ifs after. Maybe that's the point.
And the other question I don't have answered by this story is, how are they holding a torch when they don't have thumbs?
I mean, their paws can curl. Like my cats can grab things and hold stuff
Really?
in their paws. Yeah.
Okay.
It bothers me. Okay, I'm really weirded out by animals with hands because that feels too human. And sometimes when my cats do stuff, like they grab things and pull with their paws or hold it in their paws and stuff, that sometimes bothers me because I'm like, nope, that's too human. You got to stop doing that. Let me take that away from you. But yeah, like lemurs and monkeys and stuff, I don't think I could even rats.
Can't handle the competition?
Well, maybe, I don't know. It's like this uncanny valley situation with me where I'm like, that's just too close to human. I could never be I could never have them as a pet because they feel too
Oh,
close to an equal, maybe.
okay.
Like, I have a really hard
Good
time
point.
with that. Or, like, keeping them in captivity.
Hmm.
So maybe that's the point, is they discovered fire, so it changes our perspective entirely on what bears not only are capable of, but...
Are they captives of you, or are you captives of them?
Good question. And with cats, I'm definitely their slave.
Yes.
Definitely.
Can you really call them in captivity when they get to lay around all day and somebody feeds them and bathes them and plays with them?
Especially when anytime my Henry tries to escape, he gets outside and he's like, "Oh shit, I'm outside," and then freaks out and hides under a car. It's like, "Oh no, I didn't think this far," and he never gets further than that.
Oh no.
So clearly, a domestic animal
Hmm.
clearly does not want to fear the outside world.
Wait, food is inside. This is
Yes,
outside. Something's wrong here.
and he's very fat, so he's not very
Yeah.
fast, so I can always catch
Yeah.
him. But maybe that's what the story is supposed to pose the question of, is like how far from animals are we really?
Yeah.
And honestly, if you're a pet owner, you know it's not that much different. Like
Nope.
I talk to people with toddlers and their kids are pulling the same shit my cats are. They're like on the same level. So I mean, we're not so very different from other creatures that reside alongside us.
Yeah. So, okay, that's Bears Discover Fire. Have you read it? Leave your thoughts. Tell us if you have anything more to
Explain
illuminate
it to
us,
me, please.
because we're a little confused by why this story is so wildly
Yeah,
popular
I
and
could think of a few
heavily
things.
awarded.
I don't know.
I just don't get it. I don't think it's that much of a story.
No,
I
it really
wouldn't
doesn't have
give
a
it
lot
any
going on.
points.
Without the
Um,
bears, it's very boring.
yeah,
Even with the bears, it's very boring.
pretty much.
So,
So leave your comments and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Come on back for more.
yeah.
Don't know how much more Terry Bisson we'll get into. I don't know much about him, but maybe we will, maybe we won't.
We'll give anything a shot.
But we've got lots and lots and lots of other content
Mhm.
like this coming up on Telltale Books. So join us for that.
And we will see you next time, guys. Thanks for being here.
Bye.
Bye.